You're listening to the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network, broadcasting on satellite GE1, transponder 7, 7.56 audio, and over 700 FM stations across the nation and around the world. The Hour of the Time is also carried on WRMI, Worldwide Shortwave Radio, 9955 kilohertz, Monday through Friday night, 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
This is my daddy's station. I'm Pooh, classic radio like you always wished it could be. 101.1 FM, Eager.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is $20 per year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order. To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
Or if you'd like to short-circuit the whole process and not spend the money on the call, make a check or money order payable to the Harvest Trust. That's the Harvest Trust, in the amount of $20, and send it to the Harvest Trust, P.O. Box 1970, Eager, Arizona, 85925. That's the Harvest Trust, P.O. Box 1970, Eager, Arizona, 85925. Please specify that you are ordering a subscription to Christian Media.
101.1 FM is owned and operated by the Independence Foundation Trust as a non-profit community service.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm still William Cooper, the man named by President William Jefferson Clinton as the most dangerous radio host in America. And if you keep listening to this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, you'll find out why. It's because we tell the truth. We reveal the secrets of those who are taking this country down. We tell you who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what it means to you. And we don't just say it. We're not like other radio broadcasts anywhere in the world, ladies and gentlemen. We document it, we source it, so that you can go and verify that we're telling you the truth. Nobody else does that. They just ask you to take their word for it, you know. And sometimes they'll have a guest who is pro and a guest who is con. And when it's over, you don't know what to believe. Well, folks, the world doesn't work that way. The world is not supposed to exist in confusion, and we will not allow you to be confused here on the Hour of the Time. We're going to tell you the truth as close as we can get to it, and believe me, sometimes the truth is elusive, and we source and document every single thing that we ever tell you. If I tell you something that's my opinion, I make sure that you know that it's my opinion. If I tell you it's a fact, I'll source and document it so that you'll know that it's a fact, and so that you can go and determine that for yourself. And we don't just depend upon one or two sources, ladies and gentlemen. What you hear on this broadcast is the result of many, many years of research by many people who make up the membership of the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence, the CAGI News Service, and the Intelligence Service of the Second Continental Army of the Republic Militia, and independent and unaffiliated researchers and investigators across this country and around the world. Every day, and if you know the people in the post office, they'll tell you that this is true. Every day, we get a big giant mailbox full of packages and mail and express mail and boxes, all full of reports, the results of investigations and research, books for the library, and literally tons of information passes through my hands each year. And that's where all of this comes from. A good portion of it is my research. All of it is analysis done by me of all of the research that passes through here. But the bulk of the information, ladies and gentlemen, comes from people all over this country and all over the world. People just like you who are concerned about what's happening to freedom in this country and in other places all around the world. They know, as I know, as you should know, that we're going down the hill on a roller coaster. We're losing freedom. In fact, in a few more years, if something isn't done, and I mean drastic, freedom will be something someone remembers if they're allowed to ever even mention the word again. And if freedom is lost in this country, it's lost for the world. Probably forever. For to get it back, we won't be battling the weapons that have been used in the past. Oh, no. No, those in control have filched enough tax dollars out of the people of the world that they have perfected technologies so that when they finally take the last gun out of the last hand of the last free man or woman on the face of this earth, they will be able to control every single living being for 24 hours of every single day from birth until death. Don't believe it? Well, folks, stay tuned. And remember, the music that we play on this broadcast always has meaning. So I suggest that you listen to it very carefully. I'll be back. time that you've ever really listened to it, although that you may have heard it dozens of times. Do you know what it means? Did you know that major corporations and those wealthy men and women in this world who belong to the Illuminati are brainwashing, propagandizing your children to accept what is coming? And you, like the sheeple that you are, you hear it, you don't understand it, it goes in one ear and right out the other, and you bought it for your children. You're part of the problem. And I've said on many occasions, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to know what's wrong with this country, go in your bathroom and look in the mirror. You will find the problems staring right back at you. Of course, you will not want to admit it, nor will you want to go in and look in the mirror and confront the real problem and confront your own ignorance or do much about it, except for some of you. The really best that there is, you will. Many of you have already. Most of you, though, I know from experience, will not. You will sit around and you will talk about your patriotism and how you don't want these things to happen, but you won't do anything. We all know that. See, I've been fighting this battle for so many years. I have the physical and the mental scars to prove it. I have learned some hard lessons, and I have studied history, and I know that all through the history of the world, even though a whole population may know that something is wrong and they may know what they need to do, it's always between one single person and on rare occasions as much as 5% of the population that ever affects the necessary action that causes what needs to be done to actually happen. Usually, though, it's between that 1% and 3%. As I said, 5% is rare. And never throughout the history of the world has it ever been more than 5%. Many of you might be a little bit surprised to learn that only 3% of the entire population of the American colonies opposed King George, fought the Revolutionary War, and created this nation. That's right. The rest of them were either on the side of King George or didn't give a damn one way or the other, and none of them did anything for either side. Except occasionally they would, when they knew that a battle was going to be fought, as in the Civil War, they would find a hill somewhere where they could overlook the battle site and watch the goings-on. Oh, what fools these mortals be. Yesterday I left off talking to you about the Illuminati and New Age version of the Christ. Benjamin Krim is a major New Age leader. He might be touted, you might say, as the John the Baptist for the New Age Christ, the Lord Maitreya, who Krim says is already in the world, simply waiting for the right time to manifest his presence. Well, the truth is, there is no such person, and there never will be. For the New Age and the Illuminati version of the Christ is something that dwells within each and every human being, that if they bring it forth and perfect themselves as the temple, then the Christ will manifest itself on earth in humankind. But in the reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom, Krim reveals that Freemasonry will play an important part in the return of, quote, the Christ, end quote, whom Christians would call the Antichrist, especially in the initiation ritual for the New Age religion. He says, this is Benjamin Krim, quote, through the Masonic tradition and certain esoteric groups, remember I told you it's all of the secret societies and fraternal brotherhoods, that's what he means by esoteric groups, will come the process of initiation. And you can interpret that as the brainwashing that you get through the material put out by Walt Disney Corporation, through a visit to the Luxor Hotel and the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and many other things where you go in and while you're staying there actually receive the 3 degrees of initiation of the Blue Lodge and leave, when you do leave, as a Freemason without portfolio, and all of this happens without you even knowing that anything transpired. Same with your children when they watch Walt Disney movies and listen to the songs. They're being inculcated into the beliefs, the dogma of the New Age, of the New World Order, and they are being propagandized into accepting it. And many of you are going to find that hard to believe until you study the symbology and start looking at this stuff with your intellect instead of as some childish little kid cartoons. By the way, we don't call our children kids in this house. If we do, my daughter, Pooh, will take me to task for that, or anybody else, even strangers. If they call her a kid, she lets them know right off the bat she is not a baby goat. She is a child, a human child. In this coming age, ladies and gentlemen, millions of people will take the first and second initiation through these transformed and purified institutions, according to Benjamin Creme. Also, in a section of his book containing a transcript of his many lectures, including questions and answer sessions, after speaking about the coming reformation of the churches and Buddhism, he's asked if he believes this reformation, quote, will affect the various secret organizations like the Masons, the Rosicrucians, and so on, end quote. And he answers, and I quote again, very much so. The coming religion, in fact, this coming age will be dominated by magic or ritual or organization. Aquarius has been called the implementing force of synthesis or universality and will bring about synthesis, universality in the world, end quote. What he's talking about is the end result of all the Hegelian dialectic conflicts that are raging around the world, intentionally instigated and controlled by the same group on both sides, in order to bring about this magical synthesis, which we already know is going to be Marxist socialism. Nazism, if you will. Remember, Hitler was a Nazi. Nazis were socialists. The National Socialist German Workers' Party was the proper name for it. Hitler socialized Germany. He was against capitalism, and he was against communism. He was a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. Note the theme of conjunction spouted by these people. That is, synthesis or universality. You'll recall that Albert Pike has said this is Masonry's royal secret to obtain the balance. Now, you're going to encounter this concept of mixture repeatedly in the writings of New Age and Masonic authorities. Creme next tells us how the newly synthesized religions will be manifested. The new religions, he says, and I quote, for instance, through organizations like Freemasonry. In Freemasonry is embedded the core of the secret heart of the occult mysteries wrapped up in number, metaphor, and symbol. And I've been teaching you all of these things over the last 5 years. Those of you who were lucky enough to catch this program at the beginning, you have received an education that's worth a lot more than you'll ever know. Wrapped in number, metaphor, and symbol. When these are purified, these will be seen to be a true occult heritage. Through the orders of Masonry, the initiatory path will be trodden and initiation will be taken. End quote. That's in his book on page 87. So not only will the mystery religion be restored, according to Benjamin Creme and many others, but so will the process of initiation. And Creme says, reiterating the theme of the earlier authorities that I quoted, this new religion will be universal, a conjunction of the East and West, a synthesis of the conflicts of the world. He says on page 88 and 89 of his book, quote, "A new world religion will be inaugurated, which will be a fusion and synthesis of the approach of the East and the approach of the West. The Christ will bring together Christianity and Buddhism in a new scientific religion based upon the mysteries, on initiation, on invocation." Remember, I read you the invocation for the Lucis Trust on these special New Age holidays that they celebrate around the world. And all of these people, all together at the same time, on the same day, all chant this invocation. Krim says it's the very heart and core of the New World religion, and it will be the esoteric process of initiation. Gradually, Christianity and Buddhism and other religions will wither away as the new religion gains its adherents and exponents and is gradually built by humanity, end quote. You see, because this synthesis, as he calls it, is going to result in what already exists in the humanist religion. For that's what they seek, is the apotheosis of humanity. So pervasive is the application of the universal principle of dialectics, conjunction, balance, opposites, that Krim even says the, quote, "other religions will wither away," end quote, just as in Marxist theory, the state is supposed to, quote, "wither away," end quote, and be replaced by true, quote, "communism," end quote. And of course, even though socialists don't know it, the end result of all socialist movements is, in fact, communism. Communism is total ownership and control of everything by the state. Another of the New Age movement's major figures, David Spangler, in Reflections of the Christ, reveals the true identity of this Christ, or Lord Maitreya. He says Christ is the same force as Lucifer. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Would you like for me to give you that again? David Spangler, in Reflections of the Christ, reveals the true identity of this Christ, or Lord Maitreya, as he is called by Benjamin Krim. He says Christ is the same force as Lucifer. Lucifer works within each of us to bring us to wholeness as we move into the new age. End quote. Now that's an admission, a confession if I've ever heard one, and an indictment at the same time. Then he tells us what kind of initiation will be administered through the orders of Freemasonry. He says, quote, "The light that reveals us to the path to Christ comes from Lucifer, the great initiator. Lucifer comes to give us the final Luciferic initiation that many people in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an invitation into the new age." End quote. You know, I could stop right there, shut down this whole radio network, stop everything else that I'm doing, and go off and have a good time with my wife and children if and only if I could be absolutely satisfied and convinced that you all understood what I just told you. But you see, from past experience, I know that you haven't got a clue, many of you. Only a very few who are listening to this broadcast really know what I'm telling you at this time. Not just telling you, but documenting, sourcing, so that you can go out and find this information for yourself. And make sure you've got pen and paper by your side, because today I'm going to give you a small bibliography. Just a small one. And if you've been listening for the last few episodes of the Hour of the Time, I've already given you several books and several authors that you need to look up. Benjamin Krim, Albert Pike, Manly P. Hall, just to name a few. Mackey, and others. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. And I've given you a list of books already. I'm going to give you some more today. If you missed anything, order these tapes. I don't know how much they are, but you can send us $1 in a self-addressed stamped number 10 size envelope And Annie will send you off a tape list and a catalog of all of the things that we offer to the listening audience or anybody who's interested. And you can order studio quality stereo tapes from us for any broadcasts that we ever do. Just mention the date and the subject, or send $1 and a self-addressed stamped number 10 size envelope, and we'll send you a tape list and a catalog that you can order from. If you would like to know the price of anything right now, call my secretary, Connie Franklin, at 520-333-4578. And you can short-circuit that process and order whatever you want right away without waiting for a catalog. But here we go. According to the top New Age leaders, and I've been rattling this off to you for the last several broadcasts, they have also stated that Masonry is a universal religion and is a repository of the occult secret doctrine of the mysteries, whose God we know and have proven and have documented in their own words is Lucifer, Satan. In fact, one of the world's most occult books is loaded with references to Freemasonry. I'm talking to Helena Petrovna Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. In her introduction to Volume 1, she summarizes for us the nature of the secret doctrine and reveals its tie-in with Freemasonry. Quote, "The secret doctrine was the universally diffused religion of the ancient and prehistoric world. Proofs of its diffusion, together with the teaching of all its great adepts, exist to this day in the secret crypts of libraries belonging to the occult fraternities. There are several documents in the St. Petersburg Imperial Libraries to show that, even so late as during the days when Freemasonry and secret societies of mystics flourished unimpeded in Russia, more than one Russian mystic traveled to Tibet via the Ural Mountains in search of knowledge and initiation. Let anyone look over the annals and history of Freemasonry in the archives of the Russian metropolis, and he will assure himself of the fact stated." End quote. Helena P. Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, London, Theosophical University Press, 1888, page 34 through 36. Now, folks, we could spend an awful lot of time exploring Helena Petrovna Blavatsky's anti-Christian dogma that makes Jehovah the villain, Christians are the Black Lodge, in the esoteric teaching, and Lucifer the hero, the White Lodge. But we get the same doctrine in Pike's work. In his discussion of the Royal Ark degree, in his book Morals and Dogma, for example, Pike reveals the true nature of Freemasonry's God, and it's not Jehovah. Please read the following in your copy of Morals and Dogma slowly and carefully. And if you haven't got a copy, get one. Read it. This is on page 204 and page 205. 204 to 205. Quote, "We know that for many centuries the Hebrews have been forbidden to pronounce the sacred name. In India it was forbidden to pronounce the word Om or Om, the sacred name of the one deity manifested as Brahma, Vishnu, and Siva. It was therefore possible for that of the name of the deity to have been forgotten or lost. It is certain that its true pronunciation is not that represented by the word Jehovah, and therefore that it is not the true name of deity nor the ineffable word." End quote. Further says that the communication of the true nature of God in the ancient mysteries is what we now call Masonry. I'm going to quote from him again. Listen carefully. "Among all the ancient nations there was one faith and one idea of deity for the enlightened, intelligent, and educated, and another for the common people. To this rule the Hebrews were no exception. Jehovah, to the mass of the people, was like the gods of the nations around them. The deity of the early Hebrews talked to Adam and Eve in the garden. He wrestled with Jacob. He showed Moses his person, though not his face. He commanded the performance of the most shocking and hideous acts of cruelty and barbarity. He hardened the heart of Pharaoh. Such were the popular notions of the deity, and either the priests had none better, or took little trouble to correct these notions, or the popular intellect was not enlarged enough to enable them to entertain any higher conceptions of the Almighty. But such were not the ideas of the intellectual and enlightened few among the Hebrews. It is certain that they possessed a knowledge of the true nature and attributes of God, as the same class of men did among the other nations, Zoroaster, Menu, Confucius, Socrates, and Plato. But their doctrines on this subject were esoteric. They did not communicate them to the people at large, but only to a favored few. And as they were communicated in Egypt and India, in Persian and Phoenicia, in Greece and Samothrace, in the greater mysteries to the initiates. The communication of this knowledge and other secrets, some of which are perhaps lost, constituted under other names what we now call Freemasonry. Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, page 206 and page 207. Now, do we need any clearer statement than this of the true nature of Freemasonry as a universal religion whose God is not the God of the Christian and of its own characterization of itself as communicating the true attributes and name of God, which it emphasizes is not Jehovah? The God of Masonry, according to its greatest authority, is not Jehovah. In fact, Albert Pike states rather clearly who the initiates consider their God to be. Listen to this, and listen carefully, and don't ever forget it. Quote, "The devil is the personification of atheism or idolatry. For the initiates, this is not a person, but a force created for good, but which may serve for evil. It is the instrument of liberty or free will. They represent this force which presides over the physical generation under the mythologic and horned form of the god Pan. Thence came the he-goat of the Sabbat, brother of that ancient serpent, and the light-bearer." End quote. Albert Pike, page 102. Earlier, in a program a day or two ago, we read Pike's admission that the light-bearer is Lucifer, and that Lucifer is the god of Freemasonry. The same basic statement is found in Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine, where she ascribes the statement to Eliphas Levi, a major occultist and magician whose works, according to Manly P. Hall, Pike copied copiously. Quote, this is from the Secret Doctrine by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Quote, "The Kabbalists say that the true name of Satan is that of Jehovah placed upside down. For Satan is not a black god, but the negation of the white deity. For the initiates," says Eliphas Levi, "the devil is not a person, but a creative force for good as for evil. They, the initiates, represented this force, which presides at physical generation under the mysterious form of the god Pan, or nature, whence the horns and hoofs of that mythical and symbolic figure as the Christian goat of the witches' Sabbath." End quote. My. How we are deceived. What fools these mortals be.
as old as time, true as it can be. Barely even friends, then somebody bends unexpectedly. Just a little change, small to say the least, both a little scared, neither one compares, Beauty and the Beast. Ever just the same, ever a surprise, ever as before, ever just as sure as the sun will rise. Tale as old as time, tune as old as song, bittersweet and strange, finding you can change, learning you were wrong. Certain as the sun, rising in the east, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast. Off to the cupboard with you now, Chip. It's past your bedtime.
No? Actually, it's time to wake up.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is only $20 a year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order.
To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
More to do than can ever be done. Far too much to take in, or to find than can ever be. The sun rolling high through the fast silent sky keeps waiting to fall on the edge of ground. Hey!
I wonder how many of you, when you buy your children this music, are teaching them things that you had no idea you were teaching them, and certainly would not allow them to be inculcated with this baloney if you knew that it was happening. And of course, most of you don't. And isn't that a shame? Because all it takes is listening with your brain and determining what your children are going to hear during their formative years. And if you don't believe that children can be brainwashed while they're young, simply by watching cartoons and what you think is harmless movies made by Walt Disney and others, and listening to music, you better think again. Because that's when they are most susceptible to being taught whatever the teacher wishes to teach them. And everything that they hear or see as a child is a teacher. And you'd better understand that many of you listening to this broadcast have been inculcated to believe the things that you believe by many of the same methods throughout your life. The anti-gun movement that threatens to destroy the second article and amendment to the Constitution and the right of the people to keep and bear arms began with a movie, ladies and gentlemen, called Bambi, produced by the Walt Disney Studios. That's right. The entire anti-gun movement began with a movie called Bambi. Wow. I bet some light bulbs just came on across America and around the world with that statement. And it's true. And right at the height of the attempt to remove the guns from the hands of the American people, the Walt Disney Studio has just released, again, the original Technicolor version of Bambi on videotape, and millions of people across this country and around the world are buying it in record numbers. Because it's the first time it's been available to even see, much less purchase, in many years. And its effect will be far-reaching, I can assure you. Did you purchase your children a copy of Bambi? You did? Why? And what are you teaching them? And why are you teaching it? Let me give you a list of books to read. First one right off the bat is called Masonry. Masonry, the invisible cult in our midst. For those of you who are Christians and want a biblical expose, this is what you should get. Masonry, the invisible cult in our midst, a biblical expose of Freemasonry, written by, you guessed it, folks, a former Freemason himself, a former worshipful master of the lodge, Jack Harris. You can order this from any bookstore. Any bookstore, folks. It's published by Whitaker House. Freemasonry, the invisible cult in our midst, by Jack Harris, published by Whitaker House. Another one, What You Need to Know About Masons. What You Need to Know About Masons, by Ed Decker. By Ed Decker. It's published by Harvest House. Now, Harvest Trust publishes books, but we are not Harvest House. Another one, The Hidden Power Behind Freemasonry. The Hidden Power Behind Freemasonry, by Lieutenant Colonel Gordon Jack Moore, M-O-H-R. Army of the United States, retired. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Moore, spelled M-O-H-R, Army of the United States, retired. title of the book is The Hidden Power Behind Freemasonry. And let me see, who is the publisher? Well, I don't know who the publisher is, but you can order the book probably. Oh, here's a telephone number. 601-467-8036. That's 601-467-8036. It's another book that you should read. Masonry by William Snobelen. William Snobelen, spelled Snobelen. Masonry by William Snobelen, published by Chick Publications. That's C-H-I-C-K. Chick Publications. Another one is The Dark Side of Freemasonry. The Dark Side of Freemasonry, edited by Ed Decker. Edited by Ed Decker, published by Huntington House Publishers. Huntington House Publishers. And here's a biggie. It's a very good book. The Masonic Connection, and this is the title, Hidden Secrets of the Eastern Star. Hidden Secrets of the Eastern Star by Dr. Kathy Burns, B-U-R-N-S, and it contains a lot of important information included on the Rainbow Girls and other adoptive rights of Freemasonry. It's published by Sharing, S-H-A-R-I-N-G. Hidden Secrets of the Eastern Star by Dr. Kathy Burns. Published by Sharing, S-H-A-R-I-N-G. And these books will illumine you, so to speak. Another good book that you should read is called Treason, The New World Order by Garudis, G-U-R-U-D-A-S. Treason, The New World Order by Garudis, G-U-R-U-D-A-S. And these will just get you started. They will not answer all your questions, and you will not know all of the symbology or the esoteric language or their rights or anything, but it will get you started. And one thing is for sure. You will know what they're about and who their God is. And if you're smart, you'll get so far away from them and never come back. The horned, and I'm not going to give you the ones I've already given you over the past several broadcasts. You should have written them down as I sourced them to you. The horned god Pan, or the goat of Mendes, the he-goat of the witches' Sabbath, are all names for the same Luciferic or satanic, if you want to call it that, entity, and are represented by the pentagram, which is the five-pointed star of witchcraft. This star is used upside down with a point at the bottom for the goat's face and beard, and the 2 points at the top for the horns. The pentagram, ladies and gentlemen, is the insignia not only for witches and Satanists worldwide, but also for Freemasons, and many of you saw this pinned upon the blouse of Ms. Richardson, governor of Texas, during the Waco massacre debacle. Remember her? Ann Richardson? Or Ann Richards, I should say. Her name is Ann Richards, ladies and gentlemen. I made a mistake. Whenever I make a mistake, I'll tell you. Her name is Ann Richards. If you were watching her when she talked about what was going on in Waco, Texas on the television, and also when she appeared on a segment of Larry King Live, and another time when she was being interviewed after she had been after she lost the governorship in the next election, you'll notice that each time she wore the inverted pentacle. That is, with the 2 points up and the 1 point down. It's a five-pointed star, only you're used to seeing it with the 1 point up on the top of a Christmas tree or somewhere else, wherever you see it. It is not a good symbol, believe me. She was wearing it in every occasion upside down, with the 2 points up and the 1 point down. And that indicated to all of us who know that she is a matron of the Eastern Star. The Eastern Star is the adoptive right of Freemasonry, the women's branch, so to speak. And we're going to cover that in full. So if all of you ladies in the Eastern Star think that you're going to escape my raking gaze, you are mistaken, for I've already found you out. But also for their sister organization, the Eastern Star. This god is also called Baphomet and is the god of the 12th century Knights Templar, ancestors of the present Masonic organization who brought the mysteries from the Middle East home from the Crusades. Now clearly, ladies and gentlemen, the true god of the religion of the Masonic order is not Jehovah, but Lucifer. They have admitted it in their own words, and I have sourced and documented it to you on this broadcast. Freemasonry is one of the major vehicles through which he is manifesting his ages-old attempt to take the place of God in the universe. In fact, according to Alice A. Bailey, Lucifer actually officiated at the founding of Freemasonry. In Initiation, Human and Solar, Bailey writes, and I quote, "All physical plane organization, governmental, religious, or cultural, is the working out of the inner forces and causes, and before they appear in physical manifestation, a focalization of these influences and energies takes place on etheric levels. The organization of the Freemasons is a case in point. The Lord of the world was the officiating agent, as is ever the case in the founding of great and important movements." End quote. Alice A. Bailey, Initiation, Human and Solar, New York, Lucis Publishing Company, 1970, pages 131 and 132. So again, let us ask, just how is it possible for rank-and-file Freemasons, many who are professed Christians, to take part in such a Luciferic religion? How could a Christian pastor belong to such an organization? Now, as Albert Pike and Manly P. Hall have admitted, Masonry is in reality two organizations: an outer fraternity of dupes deliberately misled about Freemasonry's symbols and dogmas, and an occult inner brotherhood of adepts versed in magic, witchcraft, and the mystery religions of the ancient world. Religions whose central tenets are being revived as the religion of the New Age. This is the abominable, universal world religious system that the Lord Jesus Christ is returning to earth to destroy, according to the book of Revelations, chapters 17 through 19. And if you'd like to get a look from the Christian or biblical viewpoint, read those chapters in the book of Revelation. Now, what did it mean to belong to these mystery religions of ancient pagan nations that Clausen, Pike Hall, Mackey, and numerous other Masonic authorities say are the precursors for modern-day Freemasonry? Well, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we're going to explore that in depth and in subsequent programs, and we will eventually get to the Order of the Eastern Star, and then we're going to get into some very serious discussion of what these people are up to and what it means for you and for me. Good night, and God bless each and every single one of you.
King of beasts with quite a little hair. I'm gonna be the main event. The king was before. I'm pushing up or looking down. I'm working on my board. It's a certain far rather an inspiring scene. Oh, I just can't wait to meet him.
saying do this.
Now when I said that,
No one saying be there. No one saying stop there. No one saying be here. We don't run around all day.
well, I'm definitely out.
We don't do it all our way.
I think it's time that you and I arrange our heart.
Don't need advice from little Orville Farfar.
If this is where the monarchy is headed, count me out. Out of service, out of Africa, I wouldn't hang about. This child is getting wildly out of wing.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media Newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is $20 per year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order. To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
This is the Voice of Freedom. You're listening to the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network.
This is my daddy's station. I'm Pooh, classic radio like you always wished it could be. 101.1 FM, Eager.
101.1 FM is owned and operated by the Independence Foundation Trust as a non-profit community service.
We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming, all oldies, most of the time. Classic radio, like you always wished it could be. Is the Voice of Freedom. You're listening to the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network.
This is my daddy's station. I'm Pooh, classic radio like you always wished it could be. 101.1 FM, Eager.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media Newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is $20 per year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order. To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
101.1 FM is owned and operated by the Independence Foundation Trust as a non-profit community service.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. The man that the communists in the White House has named the most dangerous radio host in America, and which memo Rush Limbaugh read on the air to absolve himself of any of the guilt. Ladies and gentlemen, what makes me the most dangerous radio host in America is that we tell the truth here, we document it, and we source it, and it usually makes everyone angry. No one wants to hear the truth, least of all those in power. And even more, least of all, those in power who are attempting to bring about the New World socialist utopian state on the ashes of the existing nations of the world. The battle rages most fiercely right here in the United States of America, where we're the only almost free people left on the face of this earth, and we are the only people who have enough guns and ammunition to stop it if we have to. Don't like to hear that, do you? Well, folks, you're going to hear an awful lot of what you don't like to hear on the Hour of the Time. We're going to continue with our expose of the Illuminati in our midst right after this short pause. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
What are people? You complacent with the things they're told. Well, disasters, they come and go. I give anything just to be back home. There are people asking why. There are people who believe in life. It's confusing, but I don't know why. But I've made my plans already. I've been struggling all my life. The world is after they come and go. I give all my strength to be back home. There are people asking why. There are people asking, how do I get to where I come from now? How will I be this God and I'm destroyed? Can I get back to where I come from? There are people who believe in life.
Just what exactly did it mean to belong to these mystery religions of ancient pagan nations that Clausen, Albert Pike, Manly Palmer Hall, Mackey, and numerous other Masonic authorities say are the precursors for modern-day Freemasonry? Well, let's see if we can get a feel for what went on in those pagan initiation rites. Change gears for a moment if you can, and let your imagination run free. Now, to do that, you have to remember the time that this took place. Imagine the following scene around 1350 BC, if you can. And remember that if you lived at that time, you would not know most of what goes through your mind at this present day. Nor would you see most of the sights that you are used to seeing. Picture this. You're in a dark cavern. Flickering light from torches glances off the walls and vaulted ceiling of this great cave. Eerie, and yet somehow very sensuous. The torchlight casts sort of a hypnotic spell on all of those assembled around you for your initiation. Their attention is riveted upon you, the candidate, standing upon the lip of a chasm spanned by a swinging rope bridge. But you stand several yards from the bridge, not at its entrance. Your face is in shadow, but the rigid posture of your body shows all present that you are engaging in intense concentration. Your chest heaves as you breathe in and out rhythmically. Suddenly you straighten and with fists clenched, raise your arms across your chest. You take one final deep breath and then step off the edge into the darkness. Those assembled are silent, watching intently as you levitate across the chasm and step off on the other side. You see, because, ladies and gentlemen, the swinging rope bridge in the darkness is invisible. and was invisible to you until you took that leap of faith and found yourself supported rather than falling. Now, perhaps you may think this is more of an exercise in science fiction rather than a glimpse of what it meant to be an initiate of the mystery religion of ancient days. But listen, as I read to you what the illustrious Manly P. Hall wrote as he described for us the neophyte of these ages, he says that the initiate of the ancient mysteries was a man of great learning and character, for whom initiation into the mysteries meant great physical trials and required great feats of occult capabilities. And again, writing in an esoteric way, he is fooling you, for that is not exactly the way it happened. Remember, magic is nothing more than the art of illusion. He said, quote, "Not one Freemason out of 1,000 could have survived the initiations of the pagan rites, for the tests were given in those strenuous days when men were men and death the reward for failure. The neophyte of the Druid mysteries was set adrift in a small boat to battle with the stormy sea, and unless his knowledge of natural law enabled him to quell the storm, as did Jesus upon the Sea of Galilee, he returned no more. In the Egyptian rites of Serapis, it was required of the neophyte that he cross an unbridged chasm in the temple floor. In other words, if unable by magic to sustain himself in the air without visible support, he fell headlong into a volcanic crevice, there to die of heat and suffocation. In one part of the Mithraic rites, the candidate seeking admission to the inner sanctuary was required to pass through a closed door by dematerialization." End quote. Manly P. Hall in his great tome, pages 414 through 415. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is no one dematerialized and went through solid doors or walls or levitated across chasms. But what they did have to have was the tremendous faith that they could do it, and then through the art of illusion and sometime terrible deprivation and even the brink of torture, they were able to accomplish these feats. It's sort of like trying out for some modern Superman group such as the Navy SEALs or the United States Army Special Forces. You see, as long as you never quit trying, you cannot wash out. That's the great secret. As long as you never say, "I quit" or "I can't," and as long as you never stop trying to do whatever feat it is that they have demanded of you that maybe you are unable to accomplish, you will not be washed out. And eventually, you will build up your strength and your stamina to the point where you can accomplish what to the normal man might appear to be miraculous. Hall then quotes Albert Pike from the Legenda for the 28th Degree as stating that the science of the hierophants of the mysteries produced effects that to the initiated seemed mysterious and supernatural, end quote. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth of the matter. I suppose we could all agree with Pike that levitating across chasms, quelling storms, and passing through walls could qualify as mysterious and supernatural for one who could not discern the trick to it. One Freemason out of 1,000 is probably close to the percentage of those in today's fraternity who are initiates of the secret inner brotherhood, who really understand the true meaning and purpose of Freemasonry and who practice such magic and witchcraft. And as we've discovered on past broadcasts, such magic and witchcraft have their origin in the pagan occult mysteries of ancient days. And remember, the meaning of occult is not evil or bad. It just simply means hidden. We've also touched briefly on the belief of those who practice the New Age nonsense that all of this was given to us by the, quote, masters of wisdom, end quote, or the, quote, hierarchy, end quote. Let's get a better understanding of this so-called hierarchy and its role in bringing about the New Age world religion. According to the New Age belief system, the masters of wisdom have ruled the affairs of the earth for millennia. They are referred to as the hierarchy, which is composed of advanced beings, some of whom live in an etheric or spiritual city over the Gobi Desert called Shambhala. The hierarchy contains a range of beings all the way up to the, quote, Lord of the world, end quote, himself. You all know who that is. Who is the master of the physical, material world? Why, it's Lucifer, also known as Satan. To those who believe what is written in the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Of course, what is being described is what the Bible clearly speaks of as the spiritual forces that all who call themselves Christians are battling in the heavenly sphere, the principalities and powers of Satan's kingdom. And I quote from Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, "For your conflict is not only with flesh and blood, but also with the angels and with powers, with the rulers of this world of darkness, and with the evil spirits under the heavens," end quote. Jesus Christ calls Satan the prince of the power of the air and the god of this world. In 1 John chapter 5, verse 19, we read that, quote, "The whole world around us is under the power of the evil one," end quote. In her book, Initiation, Human and Solar, Alice Bailey says basically the very same thing. And I quote Alice Bailey, "This hierarchy of brothers of light still exists, and the work goes steadily on. They are all in physical existence, either in dense physical bodies, such as many of the masters employ, or in etheric bodies, such as the more exalted helpers and the Lord of the world occupy. They exist upon the planet with us, controlling its destinies, guiding its affairs, and leading all its evolutions on to an ultimate perfection," end quote. Alice Bailey in Initiation, page 32. The Apostle Paul also pointed out that there are unseen spiritual beings organized in a hierarchy. And he says, quote, "And through him were created all things that are in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether imperial thrones or lordships or angelic orders or dominions," end quote. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7, he refers to a satanic angel whose assignment was to attack him repeatedly, whose attacks are summarized in the previous chapter. He said, quote, "There was delivered to me a thorn in my flesh, the angel of Satan to buffet me," end quote. So we can see, whether you believe it or not, the Bible clearly states that there are unseen spiritual beings in the heavenly realm and that they are organized in a hierarchy. So it's not just Alice Bailey who says these things, or Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, or Manly Palmer Hall, or Albert Pike. You see, people who believe, very much like most of you believe, also say these things. The Bible also says that they are organized in a hierarchy. Alice Bailey also tells us something about the headquarters for the Lord of the world in Shambhala, the big city in the sky, if it exists. She says, and I quote, "The central home of this hierarchy is at Shambhala, a center in the Gobi Desert called in the ancient books the White Island. It exists in etheric matter. Several of the masters in physical bodies dwell in the Himalayan mountains, but the greater number are scattered all over the world, dwelling in different places in the various nations, unrecognized and unknown, yet forming each in his own place a focal point for the energy of the Lord of the world." Alice Bailey, Initiation 33. These people also believe that other planets are inhabited and that the star Sirius is home to the Great White Lodge from which all in this sector of the universe is controlled. Now, we revealed earlier, ladies and gentlemen, that according to Alice Bailey, this was the source of the mysteries. There's no proof for this. She just says it. These mysteries, Bailey says, provide the secret powers for the magic and witchcraft practiced by this hierarchy. She claims, and I quote, "The mysteries are, in reality, the true source of revelation. They concern those capacities which enable the members of the hierarchy to work consciously with the energies of the planet and of the solar system, and to control forces within the planet. The mysteries, when restored, will make real the nature of religion, the purpose of science, and the goal of education. These are not what you think today." End quote. Alice A. Bailey, Discipleship in the New Age, New York, 1975. Chapter 2, pages 15 through 16. Bailey says these mysteries contain more than just what is found in Freemasonry, and they will be restored more fully when the hierarchy, meaning the kingdom of the Antichrist, comes to earth visibly. And she says again, and I quote, "The mysteries will be restored in other ways also, for they contain much besides that which the Masonic rites can reveal, or that religious rituals and ceremonies can disclose. And only when the hierarchy is present visibly on earth, and the mysteries of which the masters or the custodians are given openly to man, will the true secret and nature of electrical phenomena be revealed." End quote. Further, says Bailey, the churches and Masonry have failed to do a good job in preparing the way for the restoration of the mysteries. She writes, quote, "The ground is being prepared at this time for this great restoration. The churches and Masonry are today before the judgment seat of humanity's critical mind, because both of them failed in their divinely assigned tasks," end quote. And there she gives you a glimpse of the truth, for it is not a secret etheric council of masters of the hierarchy, but humanity in the form of the socialist rulers who will make this judgment. So we see that the mysteries will be restored, according to her, through the agency of liberal churches such as Unity, Christian Science, Mind Science, Mormonism, and others, as well as through Freemasonry. And these are all named in her tomes. On television, you can watch and listen to people like Pat Robertson, Paul Crouch, I should say, and many others. They wouldn't pass muster as preaching any true form of Christianity as little as 15 or 20 years ago. We've already quoted from a remarkable book, The Spirit of Masonry, written by the husband of Alice A. Bailey, Foster Bailey. And in this book we read of the true spiritual heritage of which Masonry is the custodian. The typical Freemason reading this book, indeed virtually anyone, Mason or not, would pass quickly over passages of great interest to one familiar with occult works such as The Secret Doctrine or Alice Bailey's many books, especially initiation, human and solar. So it is of great significance that in his introduction to Part 1 on page 9, Foster Bailey states, and I quote, "The words used in the text of this book are the words of another," end quote. Wow. In our opinion, it's a direct reference to this book's origin from the same source as most of his wife's, Alice's books, as well as those of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. And that source was the Tibetan Dwaj Kul, one of the so-called masters of wisdom, who authored all these works through telepathic transmission, according to them. In other words, their source is in reality some talented actor. The interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, that we find from reading Foster's book, which was written by a Mason for other Masons, is that the somewhat veiled references he makes to various aspects of Masonry are clearly stated or unveiled in the books of his wife, Alice, and those of H.P. Blavatsky. And by comparing the contents of Foster's book with these others, we can clearly see the key role that Freemasonry has played in the kingdom of the Lord of the world in all areas. And in the universality of the application of the works of these secret orders. For example, on page 16, in discussing the third degree, when Foster refers to the journey of the Master Mason ending in resurrection from the grave, where, quote, "He enters into that great fellowship of Master Masons who are but the expression upon earth of the divine fellowship existing in the lodge of the Most High," end quote, we need look no further than Foster's wife Alice for the true explanation. In her book, Initiation, Human and Solar, Alice tells us about that lodge of the Most High, and she's not speaking of heaven. She's speaking of the Masonic Lodge on Sirius, the star. Her comments give us a glimpse of another aspect of the close relationship between the New Age movement and Freemasonry. Quote, "One great fact to be borne in mind is that the initiations of the planet or of the solar system are but preparatory initiations of admission into the greater lodge on Sirius. We have the symbolism held for us fairly well in Masonry, and in combining the Masonic method with what we are told of the steps on the path of holiness, we get an approximate picture. After the first 4 solar initiations, we get to the 5th initiation, which is the first cosmic initiation. The 5th initiation corresponds to the first cosmic initiation, that of entered apprentice in Masonry, and makes a master and entered apprentice of the lodge on Sirius. The 6th initiation is analogous to the 2nd degree in Masonry, whilst the 7th initiation makes the adept a Master Mason of the Brotherhood on Sirius. Alice Bailey, Initiation, Human and Solar, page 17 and 18. So we see, ladies and gentlemen, that Freemasonry is more than worldwide. When they say it's a universal religion, that's just exactly what they mean. We see clearly that Masonry's heaven, our great lodge above, is not the dwelling place of God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. It is the local cosmically, getting my tongue tied around my wisdom tooth here, cosmically speaking, headquarters for the cosmic brotherhood of the Great White Lodge of Freemasonry, which we have discussed at length in previous broadcasts. Alice tells us on page 98 of this book that the lodge on Sirius gets its energy from a lodge in the Pleiades, a distant formation of 7 stars. Mayan, the girlfriend of David, who was Shirley MacLaine's
but when it snows, my eyes become alive, and the light that you shine can't be seen. There, I can bring you to a There's so much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. To me, I'm like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Won't you tell me that happy day? Did you know that when it snows, my eyes become alive and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I can bring you to a kiss from a rose on the grave.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media Newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is only $20 a year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order.
To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. There is so much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. To me, you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. I want you to tell me that happy baby. Did you know that when it snows, my eyes become alive and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I can bring you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger the feel, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Yes, I can bring you to a kiss from a rose on the grave.
A kiss from a rose on a grave. You know, I get calls from people who say, well, you know, I was listening. You say your music has meaning that ties in with the subject of your broadcast. And it does. And most of you might be surprised to know that the rose is the symbol of international socialism. It is also the symbol of the hidden depths of the Illuminati, those 1,000 points of light that work behind the veil. Where have you heard that before? And it is also the symbol of the secret destiny of America. Wow. How about that? Also want you all to know that I have no animosity whatsoever toward any particular religions, but we deal with the truth here. What I found in my research is there is not one single organized religion upon the face of this earth that is telling people the truth. Not one. Not one single one anywhere. They're all used as mechanisms, ladies and gentlemen, to keep the common man in the exoteric world, hiding the truth, and to control him or her. And for all the Christian religions, the major churches and evangelists and communities built around the so-called Christianity that was handed down to us from the teachings of Jesus Christ. If Jesus Christ were to appear upon this earth today, ladies and gentlemen, he would be throwing more than money changers out of the temple. He would throw every single church in existence out with those money changers. And I know that you don't like to hear that either, but it's the truth. Foster said, quote, "Such symbolically is the progress and mode of achievement for every human soul. Such has been the path trodden by all the saviors of the race. From darkness to light all must go. He must learn that the experience is the only thing that can fit him to join the ranks of the master masons of the universe and carry on the eternal quest in company with all brothers. This is the revelation which the passage of the candidate through all the degrees conveys. Subtle and elusive indications are given also of that organized and intelligent activity which is carried on by that grand lodge of master masons who have for ages watched over humanity and guided men steadily in the way of light. The whole fabric of masonry may be regarded as the externalization of that inner spiritual group whose members down the ages have been custodians of the plan." End quote. Remember the plan? We've discussed it at length. It's also known as the Great Work, the Lost Word, etc., etc., etc. Foster Bailey, in his book, pages 21 and 22. Next, he writes that these master masons are called by many names, such as Christ and his church. They can be known by others as the masters of the wisdom, the Great White Brotherhood, the dispensers of light, the builders. Then he adds, quote, "They are therefore sometimes known as the Illuminati." There's the admission. And there are many more that I've quoted on this broadcast. And yet I still get letters from people saying the Illuminati is an illusion. They don't really exist. Well, here's a member who tells you that they do. He says they are the rishis of the Oriental philosophy, the builders of the occult tradition. Stage by stage, they assist at the unfolding of the consciousness of the candidate until the time comes when he can enter into light and in his turn become a light bearer, one of the Illuminati who can assist the lodge on high in bringing humanity to light, end quote. These people murdered John F. Kennedy in Dealey Plaza, a temple of light, a temple of the sun, where stands an obelisk beside a reflecting pool with a sculpture of the eternal flame on top. The same eternal flame that they planted upon his grave in silent mockery. And for those who know the esoteric language, it is their signature, saying, "We did this. Don't you get out of line like this man did, or we can do this to you also." As any Freemason knows, entering into light is the term used in the fulfillment of his search for light in the degrees of Masonry. Bailey has just stated that this can make him one of the Illuminati, one of those illumined ones who can help the Masonic Grand Lodge on Sirius bring humanity into light, one of the fellow travelers. Foster Bailey also says that participating in this great work as part of a greater initiation, the Luciferic initiation that Benjamin Krim says will take place in Masonic lodges will take one on to his own godhood. Quote, the rites, ceremonies, and initiations of Masonry may be regarded, and are so regarded by many, as being faint representations and symbolic rehearsals of those major spiritual initiations through which every human being must pass before achieving his goal of manifested divinity, and can enter finally within the veil, end quote. Manifested divinity? So we see that like any good New Age occultist, a Freemason's goal is to become a god himself, and that's the only thing you need to know about all of this. There is no secret in the lodge. There is no ultimate great gem of wisdom that anybody ultimately learns except how to control large numbers of people by the promise of a secret, which turns out to be that man himself, if he perfects the temple and finds the philosopher's stone, which is their metaphor for the perfection of the soul, will, in fact, become God. It's the old Gnosticism of ancient times. It is, in fact, the worship, ladies and gentlemen, of the intellect. Another revelation concerns the evolution of the races as given by Foster, starting on page 31, and as explained more fully by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky and Alice in their works. Foster presents what he calls a basic hypothesis in discussing this question. Quote, is Masonry of vast antiquity, and do we inherit it from a dim and distant past, end quote? That this hypothesis is far more than that for the New Agers is evident when later he says that if you can't accept this hypothesis, you just need to be more open to your intuition, a veiled reference to paying attention to those trying to influence you. In other words, hey, buckle under to the propaganda, dunce, or we'll sit you in the corner and you can't be a part of this class. Foster Bailey says the hypothesis based on a study of the rituals and symbols and the allegory of initiation is as follows. Quote, Masonry is the descendant of, or is founded upon, a divinely imparted religion which long antedates the prime date of creation as given in our Bible. It is all that remains to us of the first world religion, which flourished in an antiquity so old that it is impossible to affix a date. It was the first unified world religion. Then came the era of separation of many religions, of sectarianism. Today we are working again towards a universal world religion. Again, then, Masonry will come into its own in some form or another, end quote. He further says that this ancient religion is attested to by such symbols as the pyramids, both in Egypt and South America, what is left to us of the ancient mysteries. He says these mysteries, quote, were temporary custodians of the ancient truth and are closely allied to the Masonic work of today. And the golden thread of the living continuity can be traced through them to modern Freemasonry. And he's absolutely correct, for I have traced this organization all the way back to the beginning of the recorded history of mankind. For they have left a trail that is easy to follow. Bailey then says that we can go even further back than that in our search for the source of the Masonic inheritance. She says, quote, Masonry may therefore be as old as humanity itself, and religion as old as Freemasonry. The period when there emerged on earth that infant humanity of which our modern race of men are the fruitage. That period may also have been the founding of our Masonic ritual and work. Scientists hint at two races which preceded ours and give them names, the Lemurian civilization and the Atlantean civilization. Ancient Lemuria saw the first human being walk on the earth. He was little more than an animal, end quote. Is this true? Do scientists really say that there were two races at the beginning of humanity, an Atlantean civilization and an ancient Lemurian civilization? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've read just about every science book I can get my hands on concerning anthropology and the history of the human race, and I can find no reference to any such races whatsoever except in the imaginations of the New Age movement, people like Hitler, in the writings of the secret societies, in the writings of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, in Plato's recounting of an ancient tale passed on to him of a sunken continent called Atlantis, but in no scientific writing or journal can I find any reference to a race called Atlantean or Lemurian. You see, these people lie a lot. And since most people never check anything that they read, they just believe it. I know people who read this stuff who really believe that scientists claim that there were two ancient races, one known as the Lemurian, the other as the Atlantean. And it is just a blatant lie. Now, Alice Bailey and Foster Bailey may believe that such races existed. But it's not based upon science. It's based upon their particular religion. It's based upon the faith that what they've been told by whoever taught them this nonsense was also true. Foster Bailey makes a statement about this pre-human creature that should set every Mason bolt upright in his chair. He says, quote, "He was a soul in a deep and dark prison, with the light that is hidden in each human form lost and veiled. He was a poor blind candidate for light, knocking blindly upon the door of the temple. Blind and ignorant, he wanders up and down, seeking light and unable to answer the questions put to him," end quote. And that is an indication that harks back to the metaphor of the Garden of Eden. And so we see that Bailey says this pre-human creature was a poor, blind candidate for light, knocking blindly upon the door of the temple. That is a verbatim description of the initiate during the ceremony of the first degree of Freemasonry. But for those of you who are not Masons, you need not take my word for it, because in the very next sentence, Foster himself says that's what it represents. When he says, quote, "This is beautifully taught in the entered apprentice initiation, where all he can do until the gift of light is conferred upon him is to express his willingness to seek. Every other question, when put to him, is answered by his escort," end quote. So we can now better understand what Albert Mackey meant by his description of the symbology of the first degree. Writing in his Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, he states, quote, "The entered apprentice degree symbolizes the creation of man and his first perception of light," end quote. What is light? Let's continue with the thread of the true meaning of the Blue Lodge initiations, as Foster now proceeds to show that not only the first degree has as its purpose to recount that time in prehistory when animal man became man, but that the second and third degrees also tell part of this story. But unfortunately, we're running out of time. And to do justice to this, I can't possibly squeeze any portion of it into the next minute or so. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave that to be continued tomorrow, and continue it we will until we are finished. And then we will get into some of the secrets of the Eastern Star and show you a direct connection linked to Freemasonry and the Illuminati. And then we will go into some of the dire effects that this has had, is having, and will continue to have upon us until we awaken to the fact, become illumined ourselves, but illumined to the truth, not the lies that these purveyors of BS push upon the poor fools whom they ensnare in their net. Good night, and God bless each and every single one of you.
There's no reason for you to lose your mind, 'cause I've seen something that's gonna change our time. If I could, I'd make you understand. If I could, I'd make you understand. There's no hurry, it's gonna come for sure. 'Cause I know that someday we're gonna end our war. If I could, I'd make you understand. If I could, I'd make you understand. Stand if I
This is the Voice of Freedom. This is the Worldwide Freedom Radio Network.
This is my daddy's station. I'm Pooh, classic radio like you always wished it could be. 101.1 FM, Eager.
Having a hard time finding your favorite show on shortwave or satellite? The Christian Media Newspaper now provides program guides to all the top Christian, patriot, and alternative radio programs. 4 times a year, they print an updated shortwave and satellite program guide. Christian Media is $20 per year and includes news and interviews on Christian books, video, music, and broadcasting. Subscribe now and receive a free Christian music compact disc with your paid order. To subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. Once again, to subscribe to Christian Media or receive more information, call 520-333-4578. That's 520-333-4578. Call now.
101.1 FM is owned and operated by the Independence Foundation Trust as a non-profit community service.
We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming, all oldies most of the time. Classic radio, like you always wished it could be.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show,